Holly Robertson, and this is my informational interview. We have my family friend Laura here. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Laura. I'm an attorney.
Okay, so I'm just going to get started with my questions real quick. What inspired you to pursue a career in law, and how did you get started in the field?
I got started in the field because I was taking a paralegal course, and towards the end of the paralegal course, one of the instructors suggested to me that I should go to law school. He thought I would do well at being an attorney, so I started researching law schools and the LSAT, and it kind of went on from there. I ended up taking the LSAT and doing well enough to go to law school.
Nice, very good. Can you tell me a little bit about your current role and what a typical day looks like for you currently?
My current role, I'm an attorney at a law firm that specializes in transportation law, air, land, and sea, and we represent companies in the transportation industry, mostly maritime. And my focus is on employment law, so we defend companies that are being sued for wrongful termination, harassment, retaliation, wage and hour violations. Anything that has to do with employment is kind of my department. But prior to this firm, I worked at a plaintiff side firm, and so I represented plaintiffs who were suing their employers for the same kinds of issues. So I've had an opportunity to see the law from both sides. A typical day, well, no day is typical, but I spend a lot of my day researching, doing a lot of writing, motions, briefs, pleadings, and I do a lot of legal research. And I spend time on the phone talking to clients. I spend time on the phone speaking with opposing counsel. There's a lot of meeting and conferring that goes on, trying to work out issues. And I also some days spend time in court, either in person or virtually, at hearings to apprise the court of the status of a case, and sometimes on hearings on motions where we have to actually argue a motion or oppose a motion. So it's a variety of all of those different tasks.
Very interesting, thank you. What are your most important skills that you think someone needs to have to be successful as like a lawyer, paralegal?
Well, you have to write well. Being a lawyer involves a great deal of writing, which a lot of people don't know going into it. If you just watch TVs and movies, you think lawyers are in the courtroom all day, and that's not true. Spend a lot of time writing, and most of the legal argument is decided on the papers. The judges read the papers and typically make a decision based on what you've written. There's an oral argument, but the lion's share of it is through writing. So you have to be able to write well. You have to be curious. When lawyers ask questions and ask why and dig into things, that can reveal other issues. It can reveal a lot of legal arguments or things that need to be looked into further to help you win your case. So I think curiosity is one of the biggest strengths that an attorney can have. And you have to be able to speak in public if you're going to go to court and argue motions. Not all lawyers do, but most do. So those would probably be the biggest three.
Okay. What has been some of the most rewarding parts of your career so far?
The most rewarding part of the career is being able to help people. When I worked on the plaintiff side, we were able to help people who had been terminated a lot of times because they got hurt at the job, and the employer just doesn't want to deal with the medical bills or deal with accommodating somebody who has been injured on the job, and oftentimes terminates them, and it's really unfair to the employee. So we were able to get recovery for employees. Also, a lot of employees who were denied their lunch breaks or their rest breaks or overtime payment that they're entitled to, being forced to work off the clock, being forced to work for long hours without breaks. And so getting recovery for those people was very rewarding because they earned it and they deserved it. Currently, I'm more so on the defense side. I still do some plaintiff's work, but on the defense side, we've defended companies who, in some cases, have violated the law and they just need help getting on track, getting policies in place that comply with the law, and figuring out how to make it right, what the violations that they have committed. And there's also times when the company hasn't done anything wrong and you have a plaintiff who is not being honest or is just upset over the job, and defending a company when they haven't done anything wrong and helping them to get out of it and to not have to pay for something that they didn't do. So that's the most rewarding part of the job, is being able to help people either get the recovery they're entitled to, or helping a company get back on track, whether it's changing policies, training supervisors and managers, or just defending against unmeritorious claim.
That's great. What are some of the biggest challenges you face in your work, or even in the process of becoming a paralegal or lawyer?
One of the biggest challenges while working as an attorney is probably dealing with opposing counsel. There's a lot of gamesmanship that goes on, surprising to me. And so there's a lot of argument back and forth. There's a lot of twisting things to make the other side look bad. Sometimes attorneys can get emotional or irrationally angry, and it can be very difficult to deal with the other side, and also because clients can be difficult to deal with on either side. And so when an attorney is having a hard time with their client, you don't necessarily know that, but they're giving you a hard time. And so there's just a lot of things that go on that are behind the scenes or unspoken or gamesmanship. And so it sometimes can be a chess game trying to anticipate their next move and decide what your next move is going to be. And oftentimes those decisions have nothing to do with the law. It just has to do with strategy or procedure.
Okay, thank you. How do you stay organized and maintain multiple cases and deadlines at once, or manage?
That's also one of the biggest challenges of being an attorney. There can be times when you're balancing, I think the most cases I've had at one time was over 60. There's also times when you just have maybe 5 to 10, and every case has deadlines and every case has stuff that needs to get done, some more urgent than others. And so any law firm that you work at will have calendaring software, and paralegals play a huge part in that. They calendar everything, whether it's upcoming hearings, deadlines to get motions filed, deadlines for discovery, and you have to stay on top of it, and you have to make sure that you double check the paralegal's work, that everything that's calendared gets calendared, that nothing gets missed. And so I usually make lists, to-do lists, in order of priority and importance, and those lists oftentimes get interrupted because things come up in the middle of a case, and sometimes they're urgent, sometimes they're not, so sometimes you have to stop what you're doing and turn your attention to something else. And you also have to know when to ask for help from other attorneys or from the paralegals. That's another big part of being an attorney, is delegating. If there's a task that's more administrative or clerical, that's something that I would hand off to a law clerk or an administrative assistant or a paralegal. If it's just compiling lists or data or formatting, spell checking, proofreading, that kind of stuff, is usually pushed off of my plate. But you constantly have to watch your calendar. You constantly have to look at your to-do list and make sure that your order of prioritization is correct, so that you're not missing any deadlines. And another big thing is to set reminders. Once we calendar a deadline, we usually set what we call a tickler, which is a reminder either, a week before, a month before, so that we don't lose sight of the upcoming deadline. If you have a huge motion due 3 months from now, you've got to have reminders popping up that you need to be working on that motion. You can't wait until the week that it's going to be due, because you won't be able to get it done.
Wow, 60 cases is a lot more than I thought.
Yeah, it's usually on the attorneys who work on the plaintiff side tend to carry more cases than the defense. But yeah, it can get to be a lot.
Yeah, sounds like it. Let's see. Looking back on your career, is there anything else you wish you'd known before when you were first starting out?
One of the things I wish I had known, or I guess that kind of surprised me, is how much of an ongoing learning process the job is. I thought that once somebody was an experienced, seasoned attorney, they kind of knew everything. And a lot of people think that way. You say, I'm an attorney, they start asking you all of these legal questions. But I've worked with attorneys who have been practicing for 30 or 40 years, and they still do a lot of research. And there's still issues that come up that they've never heard before, and they have to go look it up and figure it out. They don't just have all of the answers off the top of their head. And so I guess that's one thing I wish I would have known. If something comes up, you're just always going to be researching things and not expected to have all of the answers once you have a certain amount of experience in a certain area of law.
Okay. Is there anything else you think that students should know about working in the legal field?
I guess just how quickly things can change and how drastically things can change. You have to be aware of legislation that's going on and decisions that are in front of the courts, because one case decision or one law being passed can change a law that you think you know backwards and forwards. So you have to know what cases in your field are being appealed, being argued in front of appellate courts or Supreme Courts, because that can change the law. You have to be aware of legislation that's going on in your state, that's going on at the federal level, because those can change the law. And so you're constantly learning, you constantly are taking classes and reading articles and keeping yourself apprised of what's going on, especially in your particular field.
Mm-hmm. How has the legal profession changed since you first entered the field?
Well, I've been an attorney for about 6 years, so there haven't been huge changes, other than there's laws that have changed. I spend most of my time in employment law, and so I've seen some changes in the employment laws, especially in California. But currently, with the popularity of AI, which is affecting a lot of fields, I see attorneys that are using AI to write motions or briefs that are explaining to the court why they're citing to cases that don't exist, because AI will make stuff up if it doesn't have enough to pull from the internet. I see a lot of firms using AI to cite check motions from their opponent. See people using AI to craft oral arguments and to do legal research, which is quite surprising. I've seen the use of AI in calendaring, in timekeeping for attorneys. So it's coming, and I think we're kind of just taking the attitude of we're just going to use it as much as we can, as safely as we can, not to write motions, not to do legal research, which is irresponsible, but there are some benefits to AI that can that can be useful and not take over somebody's entire job. So that's probably the biggest ongoing change right now.
Yeah, AI is becoming very big. Have you ever been in a courtroom or at your firm and seen someone using AI? It can be illegal, right? Like discredited during.
Yes, I've never seen it personally, but I've read articles about attorneys who have used it and gone to court, and I've seen attorneys I've read about attorneys being disciplined for using it because they're citing to case law that doesn't exist. I've seen attorneys have to explain to the court what happened. I've also received briefs from opposing counsel on my cases that I can tell were not written by that attorney. I mean, I have cases that have been going on for 3 to 5 years, and so I've seen motions and briefs from this opposing counsel over and over and over, and then you'll get a motion or a brief, and it's very obvious that this attorney did not write it. This is very different from what we've seen from them in the past, and a lot of times you can tell when AI has written something. Especially in your particular field, because you know how it should look, or you anticipate what it's going to look like, and it looks very different, and there's things that don't make sense or just stylistically. So I've seen that. I've read about attorneys doing it. I personally haven't used AI to write anything or to proofread anything. I have used AI to write code. As an example, we had a very large spreadsheet that had tens of thousands of rows of data, and we needed to go through every single row to identify certain words. We were able to use AI to write a code and then apply that to the spreadsheet. So we've used it in that way and then double checked the work afterward, but not to do any substantive work. But I've seen other attorneys that are using it to do substantive work.
That's pretty crazy. Okay. I think that's all I have, Freddie, for today. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you.
You're welcome.